about USS, which is a university pension funds, and I think that there's a whole thing about following the money, even if you haven't got lots yourself. And yet the integration of actually not just sort of seeing it as something theoretical and over there, but you know, from kids' pocket money to people being able to do that £5 through abundance, which is absolutely accessible to everybody, or using Bristol pounds, or whatever it is at the time. You're just being able to start culturally embedding, being able to talk about it in a large variety of ways. And I think that that's the thing which I think we need to be able to kind of do, especially in terms of the fair trade movement, more than anything, especially in the UK, is a great example. If you wanted to kind of clone a model, UK is leading the world in terms of fair trade. It's still got long ways to go and all those kind of things, but I think that's great. And a lot of it, you see a lot of young people around in it. So I think there's a lot of learning you can do from the fair trade movement.
Actually, increasingly in focus groups, we're finding when we're asking adults if they've heard of fair trade, and they say yes, and say, where did you hear from? They go, my kids told me, they badger me now in the supermarket about my bananas, and I think let's have more of that.
The only thing I would add would be that just a practical experience, really, that to engage younger people on the ethical money side of things is to keep it at a very, very generic level and go for issues-based approach rather than like a product or technical approach. The practical example is that this ethical fund I launched in Australia 2 years ago, 72% of the members of the fund are under 35 and 74% are women. And they've engaged, these people have engaged probably for the very first time with their money, because I targeted the issues that they were concerned about and then brought in the money aspects second. I think most of the education is to try and get people to understand the vocabulary too much, and that's the off-putting thing. I just remember, if I can remember back to years ago when I was young and angry, you could give me any campaign and I'd sign up for it and become an advocate of it, and I think that's the way that we have to get younger people, is give them a campaign to take on, whether it's fair trade or responsible money. Go for the campaigning element and then bring in the education second. That's just a personal view.
Okay, I'd like to take one from the audience if we could. So if anyone does have a question, please raise your hand. We have a couple of mics going around. In which case... Oh, no, we do have one at the back.
So I just wanted to add to that point with children, that one of the things I've done in the past is raise the issue of pensions with parents. Now, I've got two daughters. I find it hard to believe 13 and 11, but they both got pensions. Now, I've done that as a father, not a financial advisor. So I think that's a really important issue to be able to make that point. And you've got junior ISAs as well. So children can get more engaged in maybe some of these issues that are a bit more complex and boring. As parents, we need to take that responsibility.
Okay, well, with that additional point then, this is an interesting one. I've agonised over whether I should edit it, dress it up, or change the wording at all, but I'm not, contentious as it is. Question for the whole panel. Are building societies more ethical than banks? Why?
How do I stop this being a rant? I would, at a very simple level, I think I would answer the question by saying that a normal bank compared to a normal building society would generally be less ethical if you're taking the point of view of what is done with your money. The fact that banks can lend to anybody and choose to do so, for most people that are applying ethical values, if they actually get to understand the process, would realise that money in a building society is not going to end up financing companies they don't support, and money in a bank, a normal bank will, whereas an abnormal bank, like Triodos, which is the opposite of normal, in a lovely, caring, cuddly way. And obviously you have an institution, and Co-op Bank along the same lines, an institution that could have chosen to be normal and lend to anybody, but has set its stall out in a transparent way, and is trying to educate its customers about what it stands for as an institution. And so obviously something like Triodos or Co-op Bank would sit as the hybrid of a bank. But overall I would say a building society, if you're choosing a building society over a bank, having to, a building society is less of an ethical problem. That isn't sitting on the fence.
I mean, the thing which makes the question difficult is being asked to compare two labels, where the reality of banking is that most banks aren't actually operating as banks, and the bankers within them have been sidelined for many, many years. There are good people in banks, in mainstream banks, who do the sort of more traditional kind of things and sort of know customers and try and do that kind of thing. But that hasn't been where banking has been for a long time. The ownership of banks and the reliance upon doing what were never banking activities under the umbrella of banks is what's mostly tainted the image of banks. I think that in a way we need to look beyond labels. I think we've got great action lists, things to ask whatever financial institutions. There's many more institutions beyond banks and building societies. I won't go into shadow banking, but there's a whole bunch of financial sector organisations, and they're all moving money through on our behalf. Some of them are doing it in a more specialised way, say building societies, and I think in a way, one thing which is true is that building societies have got a simpler business model. You can see the parameters for what they're about, and I think that having a broader diversity of specialist institutions would be a healthy thing. It doesn't mean to say that everyone's got to be just like Triodos Bank, but the Triodos Bank, in a way, it's very clear to see what it is we stand for and what it is we're doing. We need a whole ecology of different kind of things, but it doesn't need to be sort of what's more ethical, because ultimately it is around sort of resonance with people's own individual ethics.